Bienvenue à tous. Welcome to Reporters, France 24's Eyes on the Big Stories worldwide. In this edition, a failed state and its desperate struggle against Islamist terror. African Union troops are leading the offensive against al-Shabaab in Somalia. There have been some crucial battles with a string of towns held by the Islamists being taken back. Although this is being undermined, al-Shabaab have infiltrated the national army, and elements within the government stand accused of diverting arms to the militant group. With the enemy within, what use are those victories without? Duncan Woodside's been on patrol with the African Union troops in Somalia's rural south and the capital, Mogadishu.
Koyoli, southern Somalia. Ugandan soldiers operating as part of the African Union force here launch a reconnaissance drone. It's being used to spot movements by al-Shabaab.
We know where civilians are, where they are concentrated, and where we are suspecting the enemies to be.
Ugandan troops captured Koyoli a few weeks ago, but the town and even the base here are still far from secure. The drone, piloted by a handheld device, helps guard against ambushes and the planting of improvised explosive devices.
That's the canal passing fire.
Yes, there is water flowing.
Yeah, but there are some people who are gathered there.
There is some gathering this side. It was like a water point.
Let me go back.
Go to mid-zone.
But the technology isn't fail-safe. Sometimes the camera connection breaks.
They were in the form of gathering like
They were
this.
in a semicircle.
Yeah.
Last time if you saw how they behave.
Even last time we saw a vehicle, it was on the road, so then when they detected us, they turned the vehicle, we followed them, they entered the bush. After going into the bush, they got out of the vehicle, they took off.
Somebody
They
is
left the
squatting,
vehicle.
hiding like this is squat.
Some others were squatting down, others, but we are seeing them.
Using the drone lifts morale in territory the troops don't yet fully know. The Ugandan contingent here is prepared for attack from every angle. The soldiers usually move in tanks or other armoured vehicles, but also go on foot patrols. We're walking through Koyoli.
These guys have changed their tactics. They now move in plain clothes, so you will not know who an al-Shabaab is. And at times they use pistols in big towns to, to shoot the people. That's why corridors, windows are not all that safe.
Beyond collaboration with carefully vetted elders, contact with locals is limited. This soldier's attempts to reach out in a mixture of Swahili and Somali are met with bemusement, if not suspicion.
How are you?
I'm all right.
Are you good?
Okay.
In the countryside, the troops relax their guard, if only slightly. The plan is to push on from here and take the town of Haksano. But, according to the Ugandans, al-Shabaab are deliberately flooding areas to bog down the advance by using canal locks.
Whenever they discover our plan of cordoning the nearby center, they close that lock such that the level of the water went up. The small channels get filled and the road is flooded.
But the troops are determined to advance. The drone has shown a possible way round one route, which appears to be blocked for only a short distance.
They lock the water from the other side. You can now see here you cannot access. But in the front there, ahead, the road is clear.
This region, Lower Shabelle, is very fertile. But the African Union offensive and al-Shabaab's response are disrupting civilians' lives. Jibril Abdi has an impressive crop of cherry tomatoes. He's lucky not to have been affected by the man-made flooding, but he's still been caught between the two sides, his home destroyed.
They've made our homes the defense lines. We're poor people, farmers, and cattle herders. We've been hit by bombs.
The Ugandan's base in Koyoli often comes under attack. Casualties are medevaced by helicopter to this African Union hospital in the capital, Mogadishu. This soldier lost most of his calf muscle during one recent attack.
It was on 15th at night. The enemy came and shot a RPG bomb from outside in the barracks.
The hospital can address traumatic wounds, but complicated cases require treatment in Kenya's capital, Nairobi. Somali troops are treated alongside African Union peers. Local hospitals are very basic, and Somalia's military has few medics. Many casualties therefore die in the field. Gunshot victim Abdullahi is lucky to have survived.
By the time he was brought here, he had spent 5 days with the injury in the abdomen, and no any operation was done. So at the time of arrival, he was toxic.
Abdullahi was thrown into the fray despite not being a trained soldier.
We were told, fight al-Shabaab now. They told us you'll be given training and support later.
Another patient, Saeed, would surely not have survived were it not for the fact that he was injured here in the capital. He's part of a specialist unit that storms al-Shabaab hideouts.
I was shot at twice initially. One missed me, the other hit me in the head. I fell to the ground, then I was hit in the leg too.
This is not the first time Saeed's been injured. He was shot in the foot before. But despite everything he's been through, he's determined to return to operations.
I must go back to my work. We are at war with Al-Qaeda men, and we will fight them until we eliminate them.
Raids against Shabaab hideouts in the capital typically take place at night. African Union troops patrol and guard an outer ring or security perimeter, while the army and national intelligence agents kick down doors and make arrests. These men have just been arrested in one such pre-dawn swoop in the Sukbard market area.
They will be transferred to a place for interrogation. That's first. Their identities will be confirmed. Those with serious crimes will be identified as having committed serious crimes. And those with no crimes will be released.
Plain-clothed intelligence agents who don't want to be identified say they've been following 6 of these men for some time for suspected involvement in assassinations and bombings. Others were detained because they were with the 6 when they were arrested.
The names and photos of these men are in the offices. There's no doubt that they are al-Shabaab members. They will be put before a court in 24 hours.
So, Commander, lead your guys to pick up 1 magazine, 1 AK-47.
In a bid to professionalize Somalia's ramshackle army, European Union troops are providing training. Part of the program involves getting Somalis to mentor their own troops. 2 key aspects are weapons handling and learning how to identify and deal with car bombs.
When the driver stops the vehicle, don't open the door immediately. Just take a good look from where you are. If you can't see anything, only then do you get down. With the vehicle's door shut, you inspect what's between the tyres. Have you understood?
Over 3,000 officers and ranking soldiers have graduated during the last 4 years. But the facilities here are woefully underfunded. These mock vehicle inspections take place without cars, and plastic bottles mimic handheld mirrors. funding shortfalls partly reflect donor confidence, which has been undermined by several scandals. A UN panel of experts earlier this year accused elements in the government of systematically diverting military stockpiles to clan militias and, in one alleged case, to al-Shabaab. This allegation is rubbished by the Army Chief of Staff.
Al-Shabaab is reality. Al-Shabaab captures some guns, sometimes. They lose. We also have some Al-Shabaab's weapons, Al-Shabaab's cars, Al-Shabaab's trucks. So in reality, it's a win or lose. You cannot win every day. So it is true that Al-Shabaab may get some of our trucks or some of our weapons, but there is no diversion, specific diversion.
In many parts of Somalia, people are fed up with waiting for the creation of a viable national army. They're taking matters into their own hands.
Spread your legs, you crawl. That's how you face the enemy, and the enemy will run. And so you shoot at them.
On this beach near the town of Shalambot, a new anti-government militia could be in the making. Many of the recruits, including Abdullahi, have very personal reasons for joining. The victims, they say, of atrocities by a government-sponsored rival militia.
I am with this force because my sister has been raped, and my father and brother have been killed. My shop has been ransacked. The pro-government soldiers burned down my town, and the government allowed that to happen. That is what has forced me into this.
The young men assembled here are now demanding that the government and military provide them with arms to defend their community, and some are prepared to die if the authorities ignore their pleas.
We have nothing. We even borrow our trousers from our brothers. Let them slaughter us. If they're not giving us anything, they should tell us.
With the army itself still little more than a patchwork of clan militias, defeating al-Shabaab on the conventional battlefield is far from a panacea that will cure Somalia's rampant insecurity. In some cases, uprooting the Islamists from their strongholds is facilitating a re-emergence of clan rivalries, which had previously been held in check.
Our reporter Duncan Woodside is here in the studio. Duncan, thank you so much for your report. It showed clearly how much mistrust there is still in Somalia of both the government and the army.
Well, of course, yes. The Somali army and the Somali government have had to rebuild themselves from scratch over the last couple of years, and that's preceded by 20 years of near anarchy in Somalia. So this is a process that will take quite some time to win the trust again of the Somali people, but also perhaps the international community as well. And the international community over the past year or so has become increasingly wary, I'd say, of the Somali government in a context where we've had these scandals. You saw in the report, of course, there was this allegation of arms diversion to clan militias and even to al-Shabaab, but also the central bank governor resigned in November last year, despite having only been in her job for 7 weeks. And when she resigned, she said that she was being put under a lot of pressure to sanction deals which were incompatible with her duties to the Somali people. So obviously there are increasing concerns within the international community that the Somali government isn't performing in line with the expectations that they had.
Effectively then, al-Shabaab had become the alternative.
Well, indeed, yes. Al-Shabaab, they rose out of the ashes of the Islamic Courts Union in early 2009. It was 2009 when they began to score significant successes, taking major towns across Somalia. And Al-Shabaab, effectively, they were born out of a situation where Ethiopia had intervened militarily, and that created a lot of disenchantment, a lot of disillusionment, and a lot of hard-line feeling. And Al-Shabaab capitalized on that. And since then, since obviously 2009, they've been pushed out a lot of the major urban centres by the African Union force, but at the same time, they've generated more of a regional reach, being able to move into Kenya, for example. There are a lot of attacks in Kenya, including the attack on the Westgate shopping mall in September last year, which killed 67 people. So over time, al-Shabaab have evolved from an insurgent group in Somalia to more of an international jihadist group.
But it's interesting that some people might still look upon them as the good guys in some way.
It is indeed, yes, of course, and there are obviously nuances within any story. The simplified story is that the West is helping African Union troops to bring stability to Somalia by pushing this nasty terrorist organisation out of the country and ensuring that it can no longer exist anywhere. But at the same time, you know, for the Somalis themselves, this offensive and the attempts to establish the authority of a federal government, those attempts are something which bring unhappiness and difficulties for people when they're caught in the crossfire, or if they suffer for other reasons as a result of the offensive. And in some ways, you know, the rule of al-Shabaab was preferable for many people because at least they were able to maintain law and order.
That's one level, but of course the terror attacks, that can in no way be excused, obviously. We have
Obviously,
the EU,
yeah.
we have the African Union involved in the country and with this international effort. Is that going to succeed and change people's opinions and win their hearts, win their minds, win their support?
Well, obviously, over time, that's the objective, to help the Somali national government solidify its authority and to ensure that al-Shabaab doesn't appeal to people, that there is a legitimate alternative which isn't subscribing to extremist values that people can vote for and have confidence in. But at the moment, we're obviously a very long way from that situation. We have a military offensive which is going on, and the short-term effect of that military offensive is obviously to cause misery for a lot of people. And there is this issue of clan militias within Somalia, the fact that a lot of people have allegiance to their clan above the notion of a federal state. And what we may find going forwards is that the government itself and the international community has to revise its expectations of what Somalia will be. Perhaps the federal solution isn't the long-term solution for Somalia. Perhaps we'll see more breakaways by different regions and the creation of a much more autonomous structure.
Duncan Woodside, thank you very much indeed. If you'd like to see Duncan's report again, you can, of course, via our website, francevancat.com. This is Reporters. You're watching France 24. Stay with us.